Hi guys, I'm Matthew Dispa from Holistic Horsemanship and welcome to this new episode of Horses Made Simple. Today, we are doing things differently. So far, I have shown you footage of horsemanship sessions when everything goes as planned. So we could keep it as simple as possible and so you can easily see what I'm trying to achieve. But in the real world, things don't always happen as planned. Every horse is unique, and I don't believe there is such thing as one method that will apply to every horse and work for every single one of them. There are many exceptions to the rule, and we have to be extremely adaptable. We have to be constantly looking for what works for that particular horse in that particular situation. I believe a good horseman will probably use several different approaches within a few minutes or sometimes a few seconds, swapping instinctively from one to the other until he can find one way that suits the horse or the situation better. Here, you'll see a footage where I'm using basically the same approach than previously, but you'll see how I'll have to adapt it to this particular horse and be very flexible and adaptable in what I do in order to connect with that horse. So this is our first session at Liberty with a horse that apparently had bad experiences with farriers in the past and had become difficult to trim, being very nervous and not able to stand still. So my job during that session is to gain her respect and trust again so the trim can be provided. Let's start. When I approach the horse, as usual, I'm looking for three possibilities: fight, flight, or friends. To start with, I want to see if we can make friends. Here, I get the horse's attention, so I immediately drop the pressure by drawing back. But she then turns her head away, so I've got to do things differently. I'll give her another chance to make friends. I'm going to make a half circle towards her hindquarters, and since I don't get a reaction from her, I'll bring a little bit of pressure. And then I get her attention, so I'll try to make friends again. I thank her for that by drawing back and kneeling down. But when I start moving again, she starts to go away again. No problem, I'll do things differently then. It is then time for her to explore the possibility of going away, so I'll start moving her. Roughly 2 circles one way, and we change direction. Roughly 2 circles the other way, and we change direction again. Now we're back on the same direction we started on. And right away, she gives me 2 eyes, 2 ears, she gives me her attention, so I'm giving her release right away and give her the time to process that. Then I'll try to make friends again, but probably too early or too fast or too soon, and she turns her head away. No problem, once again, I'll do it differently then. I make a half circle towards her hindquarters just to draw her attention back to me, and I thank her again, just to show her simply that I want her attention. Then I'll see if we can make friends again. She's probably thinking about it, not completely ready to make friends yet, but this time at least she doesn't turn her head away. So I'll reward her with instant release and draw back my hand. Now, when I raise into active mode, she turns away and walks away again. So I bring some pressure and move her again for a circle. And after that, I'm going to wait for the time when she will be ready to reconnect. I'll give her plenty of time for that. And finally, she reconnects by giving me her attention again. So I draw back to thank her. Once again, I'll try something different. and I'll start walking to the side to see if I can keep her attention, and yes, that works. I try the other side, yes, I have her attention. So I was not able to approach her and say hello with my hand while facing her, but by changing slightly what I do and by having a different position, she's eventually okay with that and we truly connect for the first time. And here, I'm able to have her following me at liberty. So you can see how the approach is basically the same, but I had to adapt it to the horse. I'm going to test our connection by describing half circles, moving faster and faster, and stopping and giving her release regularly so she knows she's doing a good job. As always, the message I'm sending to the horse is yes. There are times where I'm going to ask you to move for me, but no, I'm not a predator, I'm not here to hurt you. So here, because we didn't connect right away, I'm going to spend a little bit more time at liberty and work at sending the horse away and bringing her back, just so she gets used to it and so she becomes perfectly fine with that. So here is the difficult moment. I just made it very clear that I wanted her to connect with me, and now I'm sending her away. So there would be a few seconds of confusion. She's like, I don't understand. I thought you wanted me to follow you everywhere. And my answer is this: yes, sometimes I want you to come towards me and follow, but at other times I want you to go away and move. So how is she supposed to know the difference between one and the other? And again, the answer is look at me, pay attention, read my body language and energy, and you'll know right away and very clearly what I want from you. At this stage, it is as much me adapting to the horse than it is the horse adapting to me. I obviously want to obtain a certain reaction from her. I have a plan, but at the same time, I'm doing everything I can to find a way that works for her and makes it easy for her. What I'm practicing here is the ABCs, the first letters of the alphabet. A, moving the horse's hips. B, moving the horse's shoulders. And C, motion forward. After sending the horse away, I make sure I can bring her back again. So little by little, the message that I send to her is that I'm not sending her away because I'm upset or bringing her towards me because I like her. It is just a cooperation. We are moving together, which means we are communicating together and working together. Sometimes we'll be away from each other, and sometimes we'll be close. And everything will be clear, direct and straightforward with my body language and energy, so she knows exactly what is expected of her at any point. I'm going to repeat that. I'm moving her shoulders away and sending her forward on a circle, and there is already less confusion. Things are getting easier. So I'm going to check how well we can match our energy by asking her for the trot. I raise my body and shoulders and start lifting my feet. If that is not enough, I bring a little bit of pressure by swinging the rope and bring her release as soon as she takes the trot. And here I'm going to lose her again. So look how her attention goes away from me and how she's no longer on a circle around me. I try to get her back by looking at her hips, but then she turns completely away and gives me her butt. When that happens, I'm not going to be angry or upset. I'm not going to punish her or scare her, but I'm going to increase pressure to show her that it is really not what I want from her right now. I'll move her just a little bit, and as soon as possible, I'll ask her to reconnect again, and as soon as she does, I drop all pressure and give her instant release to thank her and to tell her that that is what I want from her at this point. Since walking directly towards her didn't work, I'm just walking to the side, inviting her. Then I'm going to send her away again, and look how she takes the opposite side of the one I'm asking. that would not be possible if I had the rope on, but when working at liberty, this can often happen and I really don't make a problem out of it at this stage. All I'm asking is this: let's move. It doesn't matter in which direction. I'm really not going to ask much because I want to work on getting her back first of all. So I send her for a bit of trotting and then I try to bring her back towards me. That has to be clear before we can move on. Right there, when I start moving, she hesitates, so I bring a very little bit of pressure on her hindquarters with my hand and she then moves her hips to keep facing me. Amazing. Let's do it on the other side. That works too. Great. After that, I'm going to repeat the same exercise because I want to make sure there's no confusion and that all this is easy for her. I'm looking as well, as much as possible, for an appropriate response to pressure. This time asking her for the canter, and beautiful, she gives me a very appropriate response to pressure and stays connected to me the whole time and faces me when I ask her. Perfect. Just by repeating the same thing and adjusting more and more to one another, everything becomes easier and easier. Now I'm going to position her so I can ask the same thing on the other hand. This is how it looks when we work at liberty. Even though there's no rope connecting us, I want to be able to have my horse exactly where I want her. Good. Now she's in the middle of the round pen, so it will be easy for me to ask her to go one way or the other. In passive mode, I get to her right side very gently to show her clearly that I don't want her to move at this stage. I just want to be able to come to her side. And when I am at the right spot, then I'm getting into active mode and I'm ready to ask her to go forward. That is very important. In some cases, positioning and clarity are everything. Very nice. That part is now way easier, so I make it short and easy and ask her to come back. That's way better. And see how this time, for the first time, I can actually walk directly towards her even though I'm facing her. She takes her head slightly away, telling me she's not too sure about this yet, but still, I'm really happy about being able to approach her that way. A few minutes ago, it was not possible. Do you remember in previous episodes how I focus on the whole horse instead of only on the head? This is a very good example for it. If she takes her head away, I'm not going to try to catch it or pull it towards me. What I'll do is to have a quick look at her hindquarters, to draw her head back to me, and look how she does that beautifully. Remember, forget about the head, focus on moving the horse's entire body, and the head will follow. Then I'm going to send her again on the same direction, and notice how I don't even have to use any pressure to send her onto the trot. She takes it just by imitating my body language and energy. As always, I use increasing pressure, starting with as little pressure as possible or even no pressure at all, by asking her to imitate me. If that is not enough, I might bring a bit of pressure by swinging the rope, but the goal is this: eventually I don't want to use any pressure at all and have her, over time, responding only to the lightest signals. For first canter on that hand, I still have to use a little bit of pressure, but she's doing great. And I can bring her back towards me easily. Amazing. Now that I can move her easily at liberty, then I can bring in the rope. Not before, because the rope is a tool to refine our work, to make it more precise, not a physical means to keep her with me. So now I'm putting the rope on a horse that is already moving for me and with me. When working at liberty, I was pretending that there was an invisible link between the horse and myself. I was pretending that the rope was already there. Now that the rope is on, I'm going to pretend that there's no rope. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing than when I was at liberty. A, moving the horse's hips. And then B and C, moving her shoulders and motion forward, basically sending her on a circle. I'm keeping it super simple so she can understand easily that the rope doesn't change anything. We're still doing the same thing. As soon as it is done, I'm moving on to trust. I get into passive mode and I start touching her all over. Remember, trust is about doing things on your horse and doing things around your horse while she stands still and relaxes. She seems fine with that, so I move on to the last check, making sure the distinction between active mode and passive mode is understood very clearly. And here is our ultimate test. I'm in passive mode, and even though I swing that rope pretty hard, we stand still. I want her to focus on me, on my body language and energy, not on the rope or the outside world. She stands still, good. Then I switch to active mode, and I'm going to do very little, basically just looking at her hips, and right away she moves laterally. Same thing on the other side. Passive mode, we stand still. Active mode, we move. One more time, swinging the rope even harder. Amazing, she gets it, we're then ready to move on. I'm going to do a little bit of desensitizing with the rope, just because she's a pretty big horse and could be quite nervous, so I want to check that she's okay with the rope all over her body. This is just a safe way for me to check if there could be any issue with any part of her body. I want to find out before I start picking up her feet and having my body, hands and head underneath her. The rope basically works as an extension of my body, and if there was any aggression or fear at this stage, I would like to know about it. Think about this. If because of a past trauma or bad experience there was any kicking in her when I do that, well, I prefer she kicks the rope instead of me. And if there was any of that, I will definitely work on it and make sure she's okay with the rope before I start putting my body into any dangerous position. You have noticed how this horse is very tall and how she keeps her head very high up. And when I raise my hand, I notice that she seems to move her head a little bit higher still. So it's the first time she's showing me a sign that she's maybe not totally okay with that. So I'm going to work on this. I'm going to repeat over and over again the gesture that could have triggered her. But I'm going to do it with a calm and confident energy. And I'll show her that I'm not going to hurt her in any way, just giving her affection. I repeat it until she seems fairly okay with it. Then we're ready to move on, and I'll start picking up her feet, cleaning them and trimming them. So this is how I check if a horse is ready to be trimmed, making sure I have respect and trust and a clear distinction between active and passive mode. So the basics are always the same, but even though they are the same, I have to be highly adaptable to the horse and adjust to every single one of them, because horses are all unique and they might react differently. So I ask things of the horse I'm going to work with, but I always adapt to her as well. That's how a balanced relationship should be, when the two partners are paying attention and listening to each other, and when they adapt to each other so a common ground can be found, so a cooperation is possible. So even though I'm asking certain things of my horse, I make sure I always do my best to make it as easy as possible for her. In other words, I don't see horses as slaves, but as partners. I hope that helps, and I hope to see you in the next episode of Horses Made Simple. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if this is useful or inspiring to you and your horse. I'll see you next time.